Hi, everyone. Kathy here. Do you run a coaching business that focuses on supporting women? If so, I've got some news. Right now, we're opening the enrollment of my coach training program called the Amazing Career Coach Certification, which is a 17-week hands-on training program that certifies female coaches in my proprietary 16-step career growth model, which is perfect for coaches who want a deeper dive into powerful, proven coaching frameworks, concepts, and skills that will help you become far more effective in working with women. And through the program, you'll get access to a powerful small business acceleration program called the Rapid Growth Academy, delivered by my friend and colleague, award-winning business growth expert, Matthew Pollard. Through Matthew's program, you'll be taught essential business and sales growth information that will help you grow your business success in the quickest way possible. In my view, there's nothing on the market like this for coaches because it targets the two critical aspects of success: how you support your clients to thrive, and just as importantly, how to grow your own business to the next level. For more information, visit certification.amazingcareerproject.com and check out the details. And don't miss the wonderful early bird bonuses, which expire March 12th, including $2,000 off the full price. The program starts March 22nd, and I'd love to work with you. See you there.
We have to be really honest with ourselves, which I think is sometimes the hardest part. Like, we have to really ask ourselves, are you actually happy in what you're doing? Are you actually enjoying this? Or do you really not like what you're doing? And like, deep honesty is where beautiful things come from.
Hello, everyone. This is Kathy Caprino, and welcome to my podcast, Finding Brave. I've created this show for everyone who longs to create something bold and brave in their life, to rise up, speak up, and stand up for who they are, and to reach their highest and biggest visions. Each week, I'll be speaking with inspiring guests from all walks of business, leadership, entertainment, the creative arts, and the entrepreneurial world. And they'll be sharing their intimate stories of finding brave and offer their best strategies for building your most rewarding, joyful, and meaningful life, business, and career. Hello, everybody. Kathy Caprino here, and welcome to another episode of Finding Brave. I know you get sick of hearing this from me, but every single one of these episodes, I am just so excited to have, because there is so much learning that we can get speaking to other people who are rocking it in fields that either you know nothing about, or in this case with Stu Massengill. I'm so excited to have you, Stu. We cover some of the same topics, but in such a different way, with such a different perspective. And I cannot wait to ask a lot of questions of you. So thank you for taking time to be with me. I'm thrilled.
Absolutely. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for having me here. I'm extremely excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this all morning. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks, dear. All right, let's get going. But before we do, we are talking about find your direction. I didn't run this by you, Stu. So if you don't like the title, you'll let me know. Find your direction and fall in love with what you do and who you are. How about that? That's your world, I think.
I'm all about that. That's beautiful.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And this is coming to you all in early March. So I hope March is going well for you. But let me tell you all about Stu, because it's darn inspiring, I got to tell you. All right. Stu Massengill is on a mission to change the statistic from 80% of people not loving what they do to 80% of people falling in love with what they do. He is a peak performance strategist for Tony Robbins. What an icon. And the founder of Finding Direction. We can see your logo, your amazing podcast, which I've had the joy of being on. Thank you, Stu. Through his company, he helps people go from lost in life to creating a life full of passion and fulfillment. As a high achiever under 30, Stu has accomplished many things, from building an 8-figure business. I need some advice there. At 20 years old, to beating cancer at 24 years old. Stu brings his passion and heart, and you're going to see that right here, to create lasting impact across the globe. Wow. All right. Hang on to your hat. I got questions galore here. Where are my questions? All right. First of all, I'm a former therapist, and I do believe that we are what our childhood taught us to be, unless we unlearned it or healed
Right.
it. Or, I mean, some of it has been fantastic what we learned, but I would love to know your backstory. Um, Primarily, what shaped you? What were the key messages? And really, what I'm getting at is, what do you think you got in early years that allowed you to do so much at such a young age? That's what I'm interested in.
Love it. Love it. So to give a little bit of my background, I grew up, I would say, in just a really blessed environment. I had two really amazing parents. I have an older brother who was always someone that I looked up to and, did really great things with his life, even to this day.
Mm.
And I
Where'd
think
you
if I
grow
look,
up, Stu? Where was it?
Northern California. So I grew up
California.
outside of San Francisco, about 45 minutes outside.
Lucky you.
And yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, I grew up in a lot of nature. I'm to this day a big nature person. Even if you look at our Finding Direction logo, there's like mountains in it and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a nature guy. I'm an outdoor person. So I was, grew up kind of in an outdoor environment. And I think a few of the things, if I really look back on my life, that are what has sort of come into my life today, years later, is so my mom, she's a life coach. She's a master certified coach, and she's been doing it for 25 years now, really. And I always thought it was so cool growing up that she would work with people that like didn't want to be here to say it peacefully, right? That, were thinking about ending their life. And she
She
would
did
take
that
some of
as a
these people.
coach?
Yeah, I mean, she does heavy work. She does
Oh,
intense
yeah.
work for sure. And she would have clients like that, and all of a sudden she would turn around to this place where they loved life and they enjoyed their life and they were so happy. And I have this memory of
Wow.
always just growing up and just being like, that is the coolest thing in the world, that you could help someone go from like not wanting to be here to loving what they do. Um, and
What a
so I think
gift.
that, yeah. And so I think that was something that was sown into me at a young age that I didn't realize till a little bit later on in life. And then my dad was also in a profession of helping people. And so I grew up around two parents that were all about helping other people, serving other people, in a really beautiful way. And then my parents are uh, very, very hard workers. My parents are the type of people that on the weekend, they go fix 300 things in the house rather than sit on the couch and chill
Oh,
and relax. Like there's a funny joke we have in our family. It's like our parents they don't know how to chill. They're just always going, doing, moving. I grew up
man.
and my dad worked a lot, and it was a lot of good things that provided for our family in a good way. But I also didn't see him a lot. So, I think, and I've healed my relationship with him now, which I'm super grateful for. But I think
Wow.
those are a few things. I grew up around parents that served people, that worked really hard, and I think those were a few things that were kind of put into me, to create some of the things that I've been able to do today. And again,
Wow.
I think I was just really lucky. Um, and someone once told me, they were like, you were given a story in your life, or you were given a story in your life. Your the thing you're supposed to do is read that story to the world. And so I always felt like I was given such a beautiful
Beautiful.
environment to grow up in, that it was like, how could I not do everything in my power to try to help people, because I was fortunate, you know?
I love it. And I'm going to say, I hear also that, I mean, I think we're given a story, but thankfully we're the author and the playwright of it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you're so blessed. I was blessed, but a lot of people are not blessed. So,
Yeah.
one key thing is you can change this story. You can't change what happened, but you can
Right.
change how you use it. So, one example I'm hearing is you saw them working very hard, and that's a beautiful ethic, but that can break down people over time, or that
Yeah.
can be from driven fear or whatever. So, I'm sensing from you with your mountains in the background, you probably have rewritten that story a little. I'm guessing that you work incredibly hard, but maybe you play hard. Do you? I don't know.
Yeah. Balance in life is
Kind of
a
important,
real
right?
thing. It's something I continuously work on, if I'm being honest. I
Yeah.
think we have seasons of life, right? It's like sometimes you have a season where you're like, all right, I'm gonna be working really hard and I'm gonna be putting in extra hours, and like, because I have some things I want to achieve in the season of my life. And then there's other seasons of your life where maybe you're, traveling for 3 months and you're exploring the world. You're not doing as much in the work sense. But I think it's it's an ever changing balance in life. But I think it's, like you said, it's so important to make sure that as you go throughout your life, it's not just let me work, let me do these things, let me achieve these things. It's let's enjoy this beautiful experience and an enriching life in every aspect of our life.
I couldn't agree more. Now tell me, would you mind us going a little deep here and talking
Let's
about
go.
let's go. Talking about your experience with cancer?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
So
probably
do you
wondering
have
what
any
I want to know. I
Yeah,
could
yeah,
tell you're
because
like, what does she want to know about that?
there's a lot of different
Yeah.
things
How
there.
old were you when you had cancer?
I found out 2 days before my 24th birthday.
My God. I would like to know, and do you mind me asking how old you are now or the range?
I just turned 29 2 days ago. So
Ah, happy
something about
birthday.
the 2 day thing, I guess.
Oh, amazing. All right. So you're 29 now. I think I'd like to ask you, I mean, you seem to be an amazingly positive person.
Yes.
And but not but, never but. And you seem to understand that I'm guessing, putting words in your mouth, when things happen, we can either break ourselves against them and bloody our bodies and heads and souls, or we can a little bit more go with the flow and learn. And I don't know, I'm making it up here.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your perspective and experience on how you dealt with that
Yeah.
internally and
Yeah.
externally. Can I hear?
Yeah. So for me, to kind of give a little pre-context, before I got cancer, I went from a place of doing some stuff that like work that I really loved in my life to save a long story, everything changed. I lost what I was doing, and I went into this place where I felt really lost in my life. Didn't
Ah,
know why I was here, what was my purpose, and so I went on this cliche idea of I'm gonna go travel and find myself. And so I've always wanted to go to New Zealand. It's I feel like I was lived there in a past life. Um, and so I went on a trip, and I was gonna be there for 7 months. I worked probably 6 months to save up enough money to go for 7 months, say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to live here. I'm going to be able to not have to work while I'm here, but really like enjoy and
wow.
experience New Zealand. And so I flew away all the way across the country. And 2 days into being in New Zealand, um, to just be vulnerable, I felt this mass in my gentleman downstairs for anyone
I got
that
it.
could gain the context there. And a
Two
note as
days
well,
into being there.
2 days into being there, 2 days before my birthday, of what was supposed to be a 7 month trip. And, side note for any guys that are listening to this, or for any women, if you have a husband or a partner, this can just be a simple reminder to if you're a
Check
guy or
things.
you know a guy, yeah, tell him, hey, check up on yourself, just make sure. And so I felt something. I, ended up going to the doctor the next day. I had a skydiving appointment, which I was not going to miss. So I did that first. And then I went to the
Wow.
hospital because I believe in living life. Regardless, I mean, you could let things tear you down, like you said, or you can know it's going to be okay. So I did
What a
that. It was
story, Stu.
awesome, awesome skydive, most beautiful thing ever. And I went to the hospital, and after 2 days or a day probably going to the hospital, doing all the checkups, it was like out of a movie. I mean, one lady brought me into a room. She's like, all right, sit down. And she was like, I have some news. There's some sort of tumor.
Mm,
And it's either benign, or meaning it's nothing, or it's cancerous. And we suggest you hop on the next plane flight, go home, and
what a
see
story.
your doctor, figure this out. Um, as you mentioned, and you nailed it on the head, I am a extremely positive person, and it's not like fuzzy duzzy positivity. It's just I, I don't believe negativity serves a purpose in our life. It's a waste
Mm,
of your energy. Someone once told me every moment you spend sad is a moment of happiness you'll never get back, and I'm like, that's the story of my life.
what a story.
Um, why sit in it? Because it's not going to do you any good. So I got this diagnosis. I flew home. Sure enough, I saw my doctor. It ended up being testicular cancer.
Wow.
And for me, I think two of the biggest things that served me to get through that, which continue to serve me in my life today, is number one, I'm a believer everything happens for a reason. And so even though it was like 2 days into my trip, 2 days before my birthday, they're like, you got to go home because it's good chance it's cancer. All that played through my head is, okay, this is like part of my story. This has happened for a reason, and this is for a greater purpose, right? I think that's another thing, is it's attaching it to this is happening for some greater reason than this thing that currently is happening to me, which sometimes when we're in something intense, it feels like it's the worst thing that can happen to us. But if we can sit back for a second and say, maybe there's a greater reason that this is happening than the pain and the fear that I'm going through now, that can carry us through this. And so that was one big thing that carried me through it. And then, I mean, to this day, I can't imagine being a parent and sitting in a doctor's room with your child and having the doctor have the words come out of your mouth that goes, your child, your son, your daughter has cancer. And that was probably the most intense part for me, was seeing my parents just, it was like, I can't imagine. And I've had more conversations with them about it after, and, we cry every time. It was like, it was gnarly. But as soon as we came out of the doctor's room, I just went over to him and I was like, don't treat me like I'm any different. Don't treat me like I have something that can kill me, because if you plant that seed in my brain, that seed can grow, and we don't want to entertain that seed. So like, everything's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. Do not plant the seed that I may die from this. And I went on to tell that to every person that was close to me. It was like, this is part of my story. This is going to be a greater purpose. This is going to serve something in my life at a later point. We're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. And for me, and everybody's has their unique experience that goes through cancer. And if you are going through it, or someone that's going through it, maybe this can be helpful for you. But again, you got to figure out what works for you. But for me, it was so helpful to have a sphere of people around me that, rather than saying, oh my God, you might die, oh my God, are you going to survive? I had a group of people that went, just,
you got
wow,
this
is going to happen for a greater reason. You're going to be perfectly fine. This is all okay. And it just made it so much, I think, easier for me to get through the whole process.
Wow,
because cancer
the
is
most inspiring thing I've heard in many
cancer's a gnarly
years.
thing, and you gotta be strong when you get through it. But I think really, if it's happening for a greater reason, I think that can help you get through it a lot easier.
Let me ask one question, can I? And I don't think I've talked about this too much on the podcast, so we're going to tread gently, but
yeah,
I am 100% with you that I believe things happen for a reason and for our greatest good. Where the pushback is, and I've known people that have lost children to murder. This is not easily said. And I want to make a caveat. I don't mean we deserve the bad things that happen. I don't mean in any way that it's flipped. What I do mean, and I hope this is helpful, is when we look at life not from the human perspective, but from the soul perspective. I think not that, I'm in heaven looking down, but I've done a lot of work on this, and, whatever, we'll leave it there. But I think that we can see that while your human ego self would never sign up for these things, there's a soul that there's an overarching something, spirit, soul, that maybe has. And I would say to you, if you chuck that idea, it's up to you. I'm not here to change people's ideas, but I know that it helps me and helps millions of others get through the hardest stuff that humans experience. Like your mom dealt with a lot of stuff. I was a therapist and dealt with people, rape, incest, pedophilia, suicidality, drug addiction, attempted murder. When you frame it, not that, how the hell could this ever happen? Woe is me. Other people don't have this. When you frame it differently, like, wow, I didn't expect this on the path today, but I'm gonna learn from this and grow from this. I think it changes your whole life experience. Would you agree with that, or push back on any of that?
100%. I mean, sort of what comes to my mind is, as I look back on my life, and I'm 29 years, so not a ton of years, or maybe a lot of years, depending perspective. But as I look back on my life, whether it was the cancer, or whether it was, when I was in high school and I wanted to be an athlete, and I, tore my ACL, I thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. As I look at all these different experiences that I've had in my life, which for me, fortunately, haven't been, insane. I mean, I guess cancer, depending, people could say that was insane. But as I've gone through all these things in my life, what I've noticed as I've looked back on my life is in life, you can always connect the dots backwards, they say, right? If I look at, when I got tore my ACL in high school, thought it was the worst thing ever. When I just look back at my life and I decided to temporarily drop out of college to like pursue something I loved, and everybody in the world told me, you're an idiot, this is the wrong thing. When I got cancer, and to many people, they were like, that, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to you health wise. As I look back at all those things in my life, if I really look at them, and I think this is true for everybody that would be listening to this podcast that has gone through something in your life, whether it was an experience you didn't like or something that was a decision that you struggled to make at one point, that if you go back to those moments in your life and you really dig and you really search, there's always a blessing, a lesson, and a teaching that you can pull from that experience that simply is just preparing you for the next phase of your life. And again, sometimes easier said than done, but I think we as humans sometimes need to do the deep searching to say, okay, that crazy thing happened to me. What was the lesson? What was the blessing? What was the teaching? Because one, if we can find that blessing, it will serve us as we move throughout the rest of our life, right? Sometimes they say your mess becomes your message, right? It's like that thing that was crazy that happened to you, if you look for it, can be a beautiful blessing in your life. And I think the second piece of it is the freeingness you get from it, right? If you begin to find the blessing, the lesson, the teaching from that thing that happened and start going, wow, life happened for me, not to me, everything in your life will change in a moment.
Stu, it's so damn beautiful. There's much I want to say, and I want to tease out two things if I could. I couldn't agree more. Everything you say, it's swirling around in my mind too. I would say too that what we go through, if we approach it in the right way, we become more of who we really are. And that is beautiful, talented, confident. Like when I've had really bad things, like thinking I miscarried my first child as I'm about to run an all-day meeting. What a story. I mean, that's too much information, but I was like, and I didn't, thank God, Julia, there she is, she's 27. But I think when you get through these things in the way you're discussing, you become almost much more unstoppable, much more, if I can go through that, this little stuff is nothing. And I think that's one of the key blessings, and I did just want to ask this very quickly. You said you don't believe in negativity, and then you said one day sad is one day lost of happiness. I would say this as a former therapist. I think sad is different from negative. So anyone listening, I think that there are things that make us sad. And it sounds like maybe you don't struggle with a lot of sadness, but I think sometimes, like being with a friend who's lost their spouse or their child, it's beautiful to feel sad. There's nothing wrong with sadness. Right. I think, in fact, when we try not to be sad, we're suppressing, and suppressing never works, comes out other ways. You got to let it flow through. So would I don't need you to agree with me, but would you say that, sure, I've been sad, but I don't stay in a negative place? Would you agree with that? Or do you actually not experience sadness?
No, I would say that's a very correct manner in which you said that. I experience sadness sometimes. And even when negativity creeps in, I think part of what I've trained myself to do, and again, I'm a really happy person. So I don't see this as like, this is me suppressing feelings or things. Like I'm genuinely a really happy person.
You have quick access to joy, I call it, don't you?
Yeah.
Quick access. It just comes, it pops in.
Yeah. And I even had, and we won't fully go into the story, but I remember a moment in my life, probably a decade ago, when I didn't know how to be happy. And it was like, I was like, I need to read a book on happiness because I just wasn't happy. And I've learned that, thankfully, how to do it over the last 10 years or so. But I think what I've started to train myself to do is, if I get in a negative state or a negative place, I train myself to get out of there quickly, because I know it doesn't serve me. If something bad happens, something negative, sometimes if we live in a negative state, we're not going to get the resourceful answers that we need. that we could get if we're in a positive state. Like the way your brain's wired is you will be given different answers from your brain if you are in a negative state versus a positive state. So those are some of the things I've, learned to do. But I think, yeah, like, I mean, with sadness and stuff, it's like when things happen in your life, you got to feel those things. You know what I mean? Something
That's
sad
it.
happens, something horrible happens. Like you have to feel that. And like you said, it's interesting how you said it, but it's so true. It's like sometimes that sadness and feeling it is like really is a beautiful thing, because you have to experience and like you have to experience that in life. And but then it's eventually getting back to a place of, okay, how do I be happy in my life and how do I enjoy the things? What once I experience the sadness, what's the lesson I could get from that to move forward into a better place in my life?
That's so beautiful, Stu. I'm going to give a tiny example of this in case people are going, well, how the heck do you do it? When you talk about sadness, I lost our second dog, our beagle, Lily, when, what was she, 13 in August. And she lived with me in this apartment when I moved here after divorce. Lily meant a lot to me. And she was not an easy, she was ill and nervous. And anyway, she died in a way that we had to put her down. Oh my God. I felt so much grief and loss. But Stu, to your point, there's sadness, but then there's guilt. And I had guilt. Maybe I wasn't a good enough mother. Maybe she didn't, look at me crying. Maybe she didn't like, she loved nature. She loves smells, beagles, but I'm in a city. Guilt crushes us. Guilt makes us sick. Guilt drums out joy and makes you feel shame. So what I love about what you're saying and what I'm hearing is you're using everything you are as a human, but you're working it. It's a tool, meaning, what am I saying? I think we have to be very self-aware and we have to go, what am I like? Am I feeling sadness or am I feeling guilt? Am I hating myself? Because if you stay in that dark place, bad things happen.
Yeah. And it goes into every other area of your life, right? Some of the things we sit and we mull on, when we're in a negative place, it's like, it's not just affecting you, it's affecting your spouse, your friends, your work, your health. Like
exactly.
It bleeds into everything. So I agree. Self-awareness, I think, is one of the most beautiful things, that if we really want to be happy and enjoy our life, we have to study ourselves. We are our coolest project that we ever worked on.
So beautiful. And finally, because I'm sure other people are listening, you said everything is a lesson. Everything has taught you something. What would you say the one biggest thing that having cancer taught you?
Sometimes they say when you ask for something in your life, you're taught it. You're not given just the answer.
Favorite thing on your website, or that sentence.
Yeah. And I was in a place in my life where I was sort of learning how do you have relationships with people, like friendships. I went through a phase of my life where relationships were very transactional for a time being. And I wanted to go back to like, how do you just have genuine relationships with people, friends, like, everybody. And that's part of the reason I went on this trip too, is I was like, let me go meet people and experience other cultures and like, just be like, meet beautiful humans all over the world. And I think the biggest lesson that I got from that was the deepest way to build genuine, beautiful, incredible, long-lasting, real relationships with anybody, whether it's intimate or just friendship, is vulnerability. Because when I went through this, I mean, it was testicular cancer. To a guy, it's the most vulnerable part of you that you
pretty
could go
difficult
through. Yeah. And I shared the whole process. I was like, I'm going to share this with everybody and like what I'm going through. And if it can help other people, like I want to use this as a way to help other people when I'm going through it. And, I had to be vulnerable for that. And it built a lot of relationships and helped a lot of people. So I think the biggest lesson and blessing I got from that was like, you got to be vulnerable in your life. Like one of my friends, James Robillata, he goes, if vulnerability is a weakness, why is it so damn hard? And it's like,
oh, that's a
right?
Fantastic it's like, comment.
It's so real, So I just think you got to be vulnerable. You got to be raw. You got to be real as you go throughout your life. And that's going to bring the right relationships, the right people into your life.
You're a remarkable human being, Stu, honestly. You got a lot of sage knowledge for a very young person. It's beautiful. All right. Now, snap out of it, Kathy. Stop it. Stop crying. Let's
right,
talk
let's
about,
go.
woo-hoo, let's talk about, thank you for that sharing. It's powerful. We're going to hear a lot from a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Let's move to finding direction.
Yeah.
So, you and I share this. We do a lot of this work, but you know what I'm interested in learning from you? On your show, I talked about what I've seen are the 7 damaging power gaps. I love to come up with frameworks like you do.
Yeah.
How do I make sense of this? So that's my current framework. How do we become more brave and more courageous, more powerful? And it's looking at the way we're gapped in confidence, right? 7 damaging power gaps. So when I work with someone, I'm looking at where are they gapped, because when we close that, they seem to fly because they have so
Yeah.
many gifts and talents on their own. I would love to know from you, in working with people about finding direction, what do you think top 3 things that hold people back the most from, it's not only finding it, is it? It's then being brave enough to stay the path on it.
For
You
sure.
can go, woohoo, I know that I'm a da-da-da. And then 4 months later, you're like, what was I thinking? I'm too scared. I'm going to lose all my money. Can I hear from you? What do you think holds people back from finding and staying on that direction?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is a lot of people, as we go try to figure out what we want to do with our life and like find our direction, it's too often we do it externally
Mm.
versus I think it's an internal process, right? Where we go throughout it and we go, well, my parents did this, or my friend's doing that, or, society thinks I should do this. And so often we go throughout our life and we do things externally because this is what we're quote unquote supposed to do. We should be doing the right quote unquote thing. But the reality is, if you do the right thing, but it's not the right thing for you, it's not going to lead you to a place that you want to go, right? That you want to be. You may end up at this place and go, what the heck? This isn't what I thought it was going to be, because it wasn't your path. And so again, kind of, we spoke about self-awareness before. I think one of the things that stops us is we look external. The second piece with that would be, the biggest thing is we never really take the time to actually get to know ourselves. It's like, as I work with some people, as we look at, okay, you're doing something and it feels really draining to you. And every single day you're waking up going, man, I don't want to do this. Sunday comes, you're, having those thoughts of like, man, tomorrow's Monday and I don't want it to be. I think one of the biggest things we start to look at with people is, it's like, if you look throughout your life and you take a moment to go internal, it's asking yourself powerful questions, because powerful questions lead to powerful answers. And I think a few of the powerful questions to start moving you in the right direction are like, what are the things that you've always enjoyed doing in your life, right? What are the things that when you do them bring you energy and increase your energy versus decrease your energy? What are the things you do when you do them, time flies by, or you feel light versus heavy? And if we can start to answer these questions, and for anyone that's listening to this, that's trying to like get to a more fulfilling place in their life, I would say begin to ask yourself those questions. And once you begin to get those questions, listen to them, right? Once you get the answers to that questions, listen to them. And then I think the third piece is, sometimes as we get these answers and get this clarity and this, like, part of it is, one, we have to be really honest with ourselves, which I think is sometimes the hardest part. Like, we have to really ask ourselves, are you actually happy in what you're doing? Are you actually enjoying this? Or do you really not like what you're doing? And like, deep honesty is where beautiful things come from. So I think as we have that honest conversation with ourselves, figure out what are some of the things that we've always been pulled towards that increase our energy, all of these things, it's allowing ourselves to go try these things. And I think the third piece to answer your question, where people get stuck, is we get in this place of analyzing, or we go, I think I might like that. And, like, from the outside, it looks cool. It looks great. And I might really like it. But, well, what if I try it and I don't like it? And then I got to stay there. Or let me try this other thing. It's like, a really simple analogy I give people is, it's like, think of the first time you found out you liked pizza. It's like, did someone pull it out of the oven? You smelled it. You looked at the toppings. Your friend came by and was like, pizza's awesome. And you were like, oh my God, I love pizza. It's like, that's not how anybody found out they like pizza. You tried the pizza and then you found out you liked it. You know what I mean? And so I think sometimes we try to analyze and think and wonder what these things are going to taste like and feel like in our life, when I think the truest sense is, the way you get clarity in your life is through experiencing, not thinking. right? You got to experience things, you got to try things, and that'll bring you clarity. And I think oftentimes we get stuck in this place of thinking what it's going to be like, but you got to actually go try it. And as you and I have spoke about before, you can try it in a way that's not super risky, right? You can try it in a way where it's like, okay, I think I like this thing. Let me go volunteer on the weekend and try that.
Exactly.
Right. Let me, if we even need to, let me take a week off from work and go shadow someone in this other industry or company that I want to work for and just see what it's like. Right. If we're really not happy, we got to find ways that we can try these other things that we think we might like in our life in a way that's not super risky. And then once we try that, that's when we get clarity, and then we make a decision from there.
Totally love it. I don't know if I mentioned, but quickly, I have this 5-step model. Step back for an empowered perspective, let go of the thinking patterns and behaviors that keep you stuck, say yes to your most compelling visions. And then number 4 is try it on. Try it on. You don't have to chuck your career, try it on. And the 5th is you don't create it without accountability, a structure, goals. We're so on the same page. But let me ask you this. I wonder if you see this. There is a time now where I'm hearing from a certain type of person, and it's typically a mid to high level professional woman, very successful on the outside, not successful on the inside. And here's what they're sharing. And they're kind of surprised. I realize for my entire career, maybe my entire life, I've done what my parents told me I needed to do. And I'm going to say it. There's certain cultures that this is prevalent. Asian cultures, Indian cultures, a lot of Jewish women work with me. I'm Greek and Italian. I had some of that pressure too, but not nearly to this degree.
Right.
Somebody told me on my course, she actually didn't know there were other careers besides being a doctor when she was little because they wanted her to be a doctor. She didn't know you could do anything else. So I want to ask you how you approach this, but what I'm saying to you is just yesterday, someone on my course said, I want to do something else. I don't even know where to begin to have this conversation with anyone, my parents, and she's 40 years old. I don't know where to begin to figure out what I really want. And, having been a therapist, sometimes this is the realm of therapy. You're not going to coach through this. I mean, we are because I'm sending her to some therapeutic help. But sometimes the idea of letting down your tribe is so terrifying because you have been indoctrinated that you don't say no to what we want of you. And my God, Stu, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. So if someone said to you, I mean, I know how I answer this question, but I'm dying to know how you do. I know that I don't want to do this anymore. I know what I want, but I know it is going to sow anger. I mean, I've had people whose parents have disowned them because they said, what you want for my life is not what I want. Well, they can't take it. Sometimes we've got narcissistic parents, whatever. What would you say to someone who says, I'm aware that this is not what I want. I am just too scared to even try the pizza.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. I think as we look at this, we have to understand how do we leverage things in our life so that we can take the actions that support us to create the life that we actually want. So if we look at our life and we go, okay, I know I don't like what I'm doing and I know what I want to do, but I'm really scared that if I do this, my parents are, going to disown me, whatever it be. That's one thought and one fear that's going to take us into certain actions in our life. What I would guide anybody to do that's going through this process is ask yourself, what's another reality that's going to come from that decision that may be more fearful, right? That you may regret in a larger way. For example, let's say you go, I'm doing something and I don't love this. And I know I don't love it. And I know I want to do something else. But if I tell my parents this, they're going to disown me. I think another way you look at this is, well, let's say, for example, whether you have children or whether you don't have children, let's say your child starts to grow up and your child all of a sudden is 17 years old and they're in this place of trying to figure out their life and they're coming to you for advice. And they're going, Mom, Dad, I'm in this place. And because of the experiences you've been through, maybe you're a little bit lighter on them, right? Because you go, my parents made me do this thing and I don't love it. So let me be easy on my children, right? Or maybe you're hard on your children. But maybe your child comes to you and they go, what do I want to do with my life? And they're trying to figure it out. And they go, there's this thing that I think I want to do. And you go, you know what? You should follow your heart. You should do what lights you up. You should do what you feel truly makes you happy in life. And anybody listening to this, I want you to imagine your child looking at you in the eyes, commenting back to you and going, but mom, but dad, if that's what you're telling me, well, why didn't you do that with your life? And for some, I think for everybody, that would be a more painful conversation to have than the one that you would have potentially with your parents. And so I think as we go throughout this process, right, we got to see that every decision we make in our life has consequences in multiple different ways. And if we fear one consequence, which could be having this conversation with our family, with the people we care about, the tribe we want to be associated with, that may impact other things in our life. And so we gotta allow ourselves to gain perspective, right? Maybe for some people, you don't have kids, you don't plan to have kids. Maybe it's on your deathbed one day and you're sitting there and going, man, I spent my whole life trying to make other people happy. And I never really actually asked, what do I want in my life? What makes me happy? And one of the things they say, right, it's like in life, the pain of discipline weighs ounces. It could be having those difficult conversations that may lead to some really intense things in your life. But the pain or the weight of decision weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. And so I think really what we have to do to move through this is know there's going to be some difficult things that come through this regardless. You got to pick which difficult do you want.
I want to work with you, Stu. I'm sure everyone listening does. It's amazing. And I want to also pick up on one thread, and then I know you have to go. But there was one thread I thought you were about to make, which is, and it's also what you did when you knew you had cancer. You said to your folks, we're not going down this path. We're not going down the path that I could die. Don't go there.
Right.
When people say, I can't even tell my parents, I lived this. I thought at 41, when I left corporate life, dad was a GE guy, and that I was going to become a therapist. He's 81 and I'm 41 at the time. I sat in the car shaking from the Starbucks parking lot to tell my father.
Yeah.
What does he say? Do what you want.
I know.
Now, he didn't feel that when I was younger. He didn't. He was a scientist. He wanted me to go into something business science. But all that fear that I had, he's like, Kathy, do what you want. You'll be a great therapist. Oh, God. So sometimes having the conversation will not yield what you're living in dread. So unplant the seed. I mean, sometimes it will, but sometimes it won't. Give it a try. Wow. Now here's my final question to you. I had written down, what do you wish your younger self knew that you know now? Well, that's a book, and you shared. So that's a book series from Stu. But what is it that you want to leave listeners with everything you shared here? What would be the one most important message? I mean, of your life, forget it. They change. Those change every minute. But that you would want people to understand that you don't think many do, especially the 80% who hates what they are doing. What do you want to leave people with?
I think it's that you deserve to live a happy life. I mean, it's simple, but sometimes we go through life and we make it so complicated and complex and all these things. And it's that you deserve a happy life. Sometimes you need to be a little selfish and put yourself first, right? And go, what do I actually want in my life? And if you lead from a place of saying, what do I want in my life and what makes me happy? And you learn to study yourself, you'll live a beautiful life. So I think it's one that you really do deserve a happy and a beautiful life. And if there's someone else out there that's created it in their life, which they have, then that means that you can do it too. And then I think the other thing is just study yourself, learn yourself, work on yourself, make yourself your greatest project in your life. You're the only person you'll ever spend your life with. And if you really get in tune with yourself and study yourself and learn yourself, you'll easily be able to figure out what makes a happy life, because you know what makes you happy, you know what makes you don't happy. And I think that's the simple but honest message that I'll leave with people is you deserve a happy life and a fulfilled life. And if you're not there, do something about it. Do not sit in this place. And I mean, like we spoke about when you were on my podcast, don't if you know it's not right, don't wait 20, 25 years to realize that it's not right. Like, make a decision today that you're going to change something in your life if you're not happy, if you're not fulfilled.
It's so simple, but it's life-changing and earth-shattering and not easy always. Beautiful. What a message. Where do we scoop up all the deliciousness of Stu Massengill? Where do we go? Send people to what you have? Where do we go?
Absolutely. I love that. I just thought of ice cream. Scoop up the deliciousness of Stu. I was like, what kind of ice cream scoop would I be? But anyhow, I digress.
Question.
The best place would be, kind of twofold. One, we got a podcast. It's called Finding Direction, which you were on. So would highly encourage people to come check us out there. I mean, I think they should all go listen to the episode you were on. It was beautiful. One of my favorite episodes.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, people can come check us out. We're on Spotify, iTunes. And then if anybody wants to connect on social media, Stu Massengill over there. It's StuMassengIll. And they can, if you got any questions, anything I can support you on, please do send me a message there. And one thing I would say as well, in regards to what we were saying before, and I believe it was step 5 of your 5 steps, is if you're listening to this and you're in a place where you're not happy and you're not fulfilled, sometimes what it takes is just sending someone a message and saying, hey, I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled in what I'm doing. And give me some guidance. And I just say that for anybody that's listening to this, I encourage them to send you a message. If they want to send me a message and they resonated, that works as well. But especially if something hits you in this episode where you're like, I need to make a change, send one of us a message, because I mean, I know for you and I both, like, we feel we're on this earth to really help people do some things that they enjoy in their life and love. And we know they're deserving of that. And so if you're listening to this and you're feeling that tug in your heart today, I would just ask you to do something about it, because your future self will thank yourself.
It's too beautiful. I love it. I wish I could stay on with another 4 hours with you. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, people. Listen to Stu. If you're not moved by this, I'm worried about you. No, I don't mean that. That sounded snarky. I want to hear from you. This is going to be on every social media platform. That's the place. See it, listen to it, and write us something. Most people listening to these shows want something different. Yeah. I mean, most of us want something we want different, better. Send us a message. You couldn't have made it more simple, Stu. Thank you. Send it to us. It doesn't have to be crafted beautifully. Just say it. And one of us, both of us, will do whatever we can. Send you a resource, speak to you. We would so love to hear from you. We want this to move you forward. Stu, it's just beautiful what you have to say and what you've learned at such a young age. My younger self wishes they knew you at 29. My goodness, I would have loved that. You're a gift to the world. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. And I hope you'll come back again soon.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Have a wonderful week. I hope this moves you forward, and we can't wait to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week. Hello, Kathy here, and thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved it. One quick thing I'd love to share before you go is about my new digital training course, The Most Powerful You, which is the companion to my book, The Most Powerful You, 7 Bravery Boosting Paths to Career Bliss. I'm so thrilled that recently a division of the largest intergovernmental agency in the world sponsored several memberships to the Most Powerful You course for members of their staff. And what a powerful move that is in terms of bringing real-world effective training to both men and women to help them thrive in the workforce. Coaching so many people as I do each year, I see that leadership and career growth training programs today are so often not effective because they simply don't go deep enough to address what really holds us back from thriving, believing in ourselves, understanding our talents and abilities, communicating effectively, asking for what we need and deserve, networking to build a great support community, and making the impact we long to. So I'd love to make an ask of you, and that is to briefly take a look at what I'm teaching in the Most Powerful You course. And you can find that at mostpowerfulyou.com. And if you feel that the content about the 7 damaging power gaps and how to close those for good would be helpful for you and people at your organization, I hope you'll ask your supervisors, HR leaders, and diversity and inclusion managers to sponsor memberships of this course for you and other staff so that you can all thrive at the highest level in your roles and organizations. Thank you so much. And here's to you becoming the most powerful you. Thanks so much for joining us today. And please don't forget to check out findingbrave.org for more programs, resources, and tips. And tune in next time for your weekly dose of Finding Brave.